Welcome to Pennsylvania in Focus. I'm Christina Langell. Governor Josh Shapiro says he's ready to work with President Donald Trump. The Democratic leader of Pennsylvania, where support for domestic energy production and a populist enthusiasm for the commander-in-chief resonates loudly, issued a statement Monday congratulating the new administration and pledging a cordial partnership, albeit conditionally. Joining me today is the Center Square's Pennsylvania editor, Kristen Smith. Kristen, Josh Shapiro was not yet governor during Trump's first term. Have they crossed political paths before?
Yes and no. I think the closest that they've gotten is during Governor Josh Shapiro's gubernatorial run in 2022, because his candidate was Doug Mastriano, who was endorsed by Trump, and he is a very far right-wing candidate that lost to Shapiro by almost 15 points, which is a pretty tough beating in the world of governor's races. He was also attorney general during Trump's first term, and so he operates somewhat in the same hemisphere, but now they're on a different, the dynamic is going to be certainly different, because obviously governors have a lot to say about what a president may or may not do. And so this is a new era of Governor Shapiro's administration too, just as much as it is in the White House. And it's going to be, this new reality is going to have a very interesting effect on Shapiro and his policy decisions from here on out, because he's got somebody in the White House who he is not aligned with most of the time. And how will he respond to it, especially given that Pennsylvania, although it was still only 2 points between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, Pennsylvania has a very strong Trump contingent. And so Shapiro's always talked about governing from the middle and representing everyone, even the people who didn't vote for him. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he straddles that line. He's already not joined on to a couple lawsuits that have been filed by Democratic governors against Trump's policies. And so I don't know if that's just, because he hasn't gotten to it yet, or if that's him trying to play to the middle and to kind of pick his battles, perhaps.
The governor says he wants to work together where their priorities align. Where is that?
It's a great question. It seems that the most obvious one that comes to mind here is U.S. Steel and the merger there that was supposed to happen between Nippon, which is based in Japan. Both Biden and Trump were against that. And Josh Shapiro was never on the record one way or the other. But what he wants to see happen is that U.S. Steel remains in Pennsylvania, that it continues to provide lots of great jobs here, and that whoever takes it over doesn't jeopardize our economy and doesn't take those jobs away. Nippon was not going to do that either, but because of them being a foreign-based company, there was a lot of national security concerns. Trump would rather improve U.S. Steel's financial standing through tariffs. That's not an immediate policy change, though. It's going to take some time. So in the interim, what U.S. Steel does to stay solvent is really, I think, one of those big issues where Trump and Shapiro are going to have to come together. And they seem to have broad strokes of an agreement there of what they want to see happen. But given the fact that ideologically speaking, they are very different, this might just be one of those opportunities where they might align. They both want to keep American companies in America. They want to really reinvigorate our manufacturing industry, all those kinds of things. Shapiro is really interested in boosting our economy and keeping good paying union jobs here. So that seems like the most obvious place to start as far as their alignment goes.
Shapiro also said he would defend the state when necessary. So what areas do they disagree on?
Pretty much, I think it's fair to say just about everything. Again, Shapiro has always billed himself as coming from the middle, but when it comes down to it, he definitely sides with his Democratic allies in the House, and he always seemed to stay in line with Biden for the most part. And so back when Shapiro was elected governor during his inaugural speech, he made a lot of the same comments about Mastriano that he seems to be making now about Trump. Not critical, but saying, this is the birthplace of democracy and I will always uphold it and defend it. And so he's making a lot of those same comments again, which is kind of a thinly veiled reference to Trump's continual attack of the 2020 election and the ways in which that he felt it was unfair or perhaps stolen, are his words. And so Shapiro's always really come out against that. Mastriano was somebody who agreed with that line of thinking from Trump. And so Shapiro's always been adamant about fighting it back against that sort of attitude. Trump has he's not walked away at all from 2020 and thinking the election was stolen. But will he continue, his immigration policies, for example, will they make Shapiro come out on the record and say, no, I'm against this? Or will it is very likely that we will soon see, based on what happens with some of these executive orders and things that start to unfold, since we're just in the very beginning days, that you're going to see Shapiro come out and say definitively one way or the other that he supports this or he doesn't support this. You have to look at it more broadly. Governors have a way of hitting back when they don't agree with what the president is doing. And that's why you have sanctuary cities, for example, because there were state governors who didn't want to follow rules from the top about deporting undocumented migrants and things of that nature for various reasons. And so governors do have a unique ability to steer their state in a way that is counteracting what is happening at the federal level. That does often cause legal problems, but I think it's safe to assume that we're going to see that play out between Trump and Shapiro.
Kristen, thanks for joining us today. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.